Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself, or know your nation, know yourself. Interchangeable. All right, today, what is today's video about? So, just so you guys know, I may or may not release this video to the public. This video is for my membership, and today's video is a chart deep dive into Edgar Cayce. So Edgar Cayce is the third sort of installment, I suppose, as it were, looking at esoteric charts. The first one was Madame Blavatsky. Then I looked at L. Ron Hubbard, and now we're looking at Edgar Cayce, who was often referred to as the sleeping prophet. Many of you, of course, will know who this iconic figure is. Very much credited with kind of taking the spiritualist movement to the next stage, with, of course, people like Madame Blavatsky and stuff like that, kind of being one of the people that really helped establish the foundation, but along with the Fox sisters, where it all began. And actually, I reference these people as well in my astrology book, which is the, oh my God, it's just gone out of my head. The Candid Guide to Neo-Vedic Astrology. There you go, with all the juice and sizzle, which is in there. So here's Edgar Cayce. There he is right there. And he was born on the 18th of March, 1877 in Christian County, which is also, one second, let me just get up here. It's somethingville. His name's just gone out of my head. Hopkinsville. Now, so they say he's born 18th of March, 1877 at 3:20 p.m. But there's a little bit of dispute about the time that he may be potentially born. However, looking at his chart, I look at his chart and I'm just like, of course, it all makes sense. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read for you guys a little bit of the blurb, his wiki blurb, just to cover the basics. And he passed away on January 3rd, 1945, age 67, on Virginia Beach, Virginia. Oh, and it says there, Hopkinsville, Kentucky. So I'm going to read for you guys a bit of the spiel, the blurb, the story. Many of you will be familiar, but just in case you aren't, I'll read that bit and then we're just going to go straight into it, because when I look at his chart, it is very, very obvious of his spiritual abilities and stuff like that. They just leap off the page to me, but I'll be explaining to you why he was such as profound as he was. So it says here, Edgar Cayce, born March 18th, 1877, died January 3rd, 1945, was an American attributed clairvoyant who claimed to speak from his higher self while in a trance-like state. His words were recorded by his friend Al Lane, his wife Gertrude Evans, and later by his secretary Gladys Davis Turner. All right, so we'll be looking at Venus in his chart as well, because that will also speak about the significant women in his life and his wife. So let's see here. During these sessions, Cayce would answer questions on a variety of subjects such as healing, reincarnation, dreams, the afterlife, past lives, nutrition, Atlantis, and future events. Cayce, a devout Christian and Sunday school teacher, said his readings came from his subconscious mind exploring the dream realm. So let's also remember that Carl Jung also spoke about the collective unconscious, which was this concept of that we're all connected with each other on this subconscious level, something akin to a dream state. Let's see, subconscious mind exploring the dream realm, where he said all minds were timelessly connected. There we are. Cayce founded a non-profit organization, the Association of Research and Enlightenment, to record and facilitate the study of his channeling and to run a hospital. So we can see a tremendous compassion with this person here. Cayce is known as the Sleeping Prophet. The title of journalist Jess Stearns 1967 Cayce biography. Religious scholars and thinkers such as author Michael York consider Cayce the founder and a principal source of many characteristic beliefs of the New Age movement. Yeah. So there we are. So that gives the overview. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen with you. So I'm going to look basically at Edgar's chart. Do share screen. It's going to take a little second to get going, folks. Just wait for this bit to come up. There we are. Takes a little while to go. Let's do entire screen. Click on that to share. And you should see everything kind of scooch over to the side like that. And then we're going to get Edgar Cayce's chart, which is here. And let me just shuffle it a little bit off to the side. Just to, oh, don't mess about. There we go. So let's do a bit of this so I can still see myself. And let's pull this diagonally down and across. I know sometimes you guys want the digits and stuff to be bigger, but it's just not possible with this thing here. But anyway, we will make the best of it. So here we are. Here is his chart. And one of the things, when I look at his chart, it is immediately obvious to me why he was able to do what it was that he was able to do, and his abilities. Yeah. So let's start with the basics. So if he was born at 3:20 p.m., that would give him a Leo rising, yeah, which will be the same in Western tropical astrology. The overlap between the two disciplines is 6 degrees, yeah, 6 degrees. So even when we add, because Western tropical is 24 degrees ahead, because of precession of the equinoxes, which moves everything backwards. So because the stars are moving backwards, and of course, Neo-Vedic astrology, or the astrology, Vedic astrology, follows the sidereal placement, takes that movement into account. So the difference now between the two is 24 degrees. So even if you add 24 degrees to 2 degrees 20 minutes, that will take it to 26 degrees 20 minutes. So it's still inside the sign of Leo. So what's Leo all about? Leo is all about leadership. Leo is all about standing up on the stage of life and shining. It is, of course, ruled by the sun, and the sun and the moon only get one sign each. The moon only gets the sign of Cancer, and Cancer is considered mature divine feminine. And the sun only gets Leo, and that's considered mature divine masculine. Also, as well, what I've found is that there are 5 signs that love to teach. All of them love to teach. That is Gemini, Cancer, especially, Leo, especially, Virgo, and Sagittarius. And you'll see here that he's got planets here, Uranus in the sign of Cancer. And I'll explain when we look at the nakshatra, when I describe the nakshatra and what the planet represents is so obvious. Yeah. And then here as well, in terms of like Leo, but also as well, he's got Ketu in the first house. Again, very obvious for me, and I'll explain why that is. And then if we look here, he's got 2 friendly planets with each other in the sign of Sagittarius, which is all about spirituality and so on and so forth. So all of this will make sense. So first things first, one of the most important things to know about Edgar Cayce is that his rising sign is conjunct the star Regulus. Yeah, the star Regulus, which sits in the constellation of sidereal Leo and is known as the heart of the lion. The nakshatra of this asterism, or the asterism, the name of the asterism is called Magha. And it starts at the beginning of Leo. So basically, you've got the end of the sign of Cancer. The last nakshatra is Aslesha. And then there is a Gandanta point, which is between the water signs and fire signs, which is often known as drowning or what have you. It means karmic knot. And then the Leo section begins. So Regulus, the star Regulus, goes from 4 to 6 degrees of sidereal Leo. So anytime a person has got a planet within orb of 5 degrees of Regulus, I found it to count at 5 degrees, that's a close orb. But 3 degrees or less is a very strong hit. So, of course, if the star goes from 4 to 6 degrees, if here we see Edgar Cayce's rising sign is 2 degrees 20 minutes. So it's within that kind of 2-3 degrees. So I'll just show you here, Marga Nakshatra. Here it is. Oh, have I got it? Where is it? My God, I think I'm holding the wrong. How is it looking like that? A second. Here we are. So this is Marga Nakshatra, yeah, which sits in Leo, yeah. Oh gosh, I'm doing this all backwards. But anyway, look, that's the Nakshatra portion. So what it means is the symbolism of Marga Nakshatra is the throne or the palanquin. So do you remember when people were carried around on the throne? Now remember too, Madame Blavatsky had this, and I think it was, I'm trying to remember if L. Ron Hubbard had it as well. I think he did. But anyway, Marga Nakshatra deals not only with leadership and to manage a kingdom and have huge responsibilities and to fight for one's throne. Marga Nakshatra deals with ancient knowledge. Ancient knowledge. Yeah. So people who have either their ascendant here or planets here are often very interested in ancient knowledge. All of Leo is actually interested in ancient knowledge, but Marga Nakshatra in particular. Also as well, the deities of Marga Nakshatra are called the Pitris, which means the ancestors. So what this also means is it means Edgar Cayce was nominated by family members, blood relatives, or via marriage, who wish him to either continue or complete some kind of work they weren't able to finish in their lifetime. So he probably had spiritual people in his bloodline as well. It's said that he was born to uneducated farmers, but just because people aren't educated doesn't mean that they're not intelligent, and they almost certainly were spiritual. Yeah, as you know, so many people were back then. But the big giveaway for me here is him having Ketu in the first house. This is an absolute classic for a very sensitive and potentially spiritual person. Anytime the nodes of the moon are in the 1-7 axis, because of course if Ketu is in the first house, that always means Rahu would be in the 7th and vice versa. So what I found is when Ketu is in the first house, Ketu, as you guys know, I refer to as Snip Snip. Yeah, he's the Moksha Karka. He is the nodes of the moon are otherworldly. But Ketu is particularly otherworldly because he has no interest in the material world. Rahu does. The North Node loves the material world, loves money, politics, fame, success, all of this kind of stuff. This is why Rahu is very closely associated with politics, but also liars, cheaters, bullshitters, and, you know, all of this kind of stuff. However, when Ketu is in the first house, when we come down, this is what I found through literally just reading so many charts. We are supposed to, we all pass through the veil of forgetfulness because we're not supposed to remember our past lives. Otherwise, you know, Earth School wouldn't be as much of a test. Yeah. However, what I found is that Snip Snip, Ketu, cuts a hole through the veil of forgetfulness. And people with Ketu in the first house, particularly when Ketu is there on its own, they can remember their past lives, or they still have that umbilical cord connection to the invisible realms, because because Ketu has cut that hole through the veil of forgetfulness. They can remember a lot of things that most of us forget. and they're still tethered to that other worldliness. Many people, many of my clients who have Ketu in the first house, and I make them laugh when I tell them, and I said, did you often have a chat with your mother or your father to say, I'd like to go home? And they'll be like, you are home. They'll be like, no, I want to go home. And what they mean is to the true home, which is, of course, with what? The creator. So people with Ketu in the first house have a much higher probability of remembering that and having access to the higher realms. And when we also consider as well that his ascendant, assuming the time is right, I think it is conjunct the star Regulus, which is known as the star of kings. It means to be a leader. It means also as well one can have a strong legacy and reputation and stuff like that after one has passed, because of course this is the sign of the king, yeah? Or it could be the sign of the queen, depending if the person is male or female or not. I'm just going to quickly get up Madame Blavatsky's chart before I continue, because I think she's got something similar. So let's do file open. And then let's look at Madame Blavatsky, who I think has got something very similar. I'm not a Leo rising in Vedic. I'm Cancer rising, but I've got 3 planets in Leo. And surprise, surprise, my Jupiter is conjunct the star Regulus. Many of my clients have this combination. I've realized this is something I was put on Earth for, to assist and help people who've got planets conjunct this star. I would say about 75% of my clients have at least a planet conjunct this star or their ascendant. It is spooky. So let's go here to global astrology and let's look up let's see if I just put in Blavatsky. Oh, no. Typical. Let's see here. Madame, what did I put her under? I can't remember what I put her under. What category? Science. Oh, sorry about this. I mean, let me just put here, Madame. It should have come up in the search just like that. All right. Right, let's see here. I just got to look through. I'll probably scroll past see Mitch, no, Martin is. It's not politics, obviously. Media, no. Let's see. There we are. I'll put her under famous. There we are. Let's look at her chart. Okay, so her ascendant is different, but look here, you can see all these planets here in Leo, and she's also got she's got the North Node conjunct, and you could even argue Mars is conjunct Regulus as well in there. So she's got that combination, because Leo does deal with, and of course she used to channel, do all of this extraordinary stuff. Let's take a look as well at L. Ron Hubbard, because maybe I was thinking about him. Let's see what his placements is, see if he's got more planets in Leo as well. Actor, artist, L. Ron Hubbard. Let's see, what did I put him under? Discovery, L. Ron. I'm sure I've saved this chart. I hope I have. Infamy. Let's have a look. Sorry about this, guys. I just wanted to. Elron, what did I put him under? Ron. Royals. Oh, I can't think of what I put him. Oh, there we are. Writer and Scientology. Why did I do it like that? Gosh, I need to categorize that better. I should have just had him under writer or something like that. Oh, and look, here we are. So a different ascendant, but look, he's got his moon in Magha Nakshatra, also conjunct Regulus. So what I'm finding is that this part of the sky has a lot to do with ancient knowledge, spirituality, all of that kind of stuff. Oh God, did I not save Edgar Cayce's chart? Oh goodness. I've got to put his, let me just do, oh, that's annoying, isn't it? Bummer. All right, I've got to put his chart back in. I probably won't be sharing this video with the public, fine, guys, because I created his chart and then I didn't save it. So when I was looking through the other charts anyway, never mind. Never mind, you guys understand. KC. And let's put in, and it was, what was it? It was the 18th of March, wasn't it? 18th of March, 1877, 1877. Let me make sure I've got that right. God, what a boo-boo. 18th of March, 1877, and it was 3:20, 15, 12. I can't believe I didn't. Oh, there we are. And here we are, USA. And it was, what was it again? It was, he was born Hopkinsville. Hopkinsville. There we are. Calculate. And now I'm going to do file save as. I won't be able to share this with the public. It's too much faffing about. And let's just put here open. And we'll just put here famous. Famous. Let's just put it like that. And we'll just put here mystic. Save. At least that's done. Famous Edgar Cayce. Oh, okay, 1 second. I think it's because I put the colon. Oh, sweet Jesus. Sorry about this, guys. There. Right, back again. So here we are. Now, what is funny here, where you see with his Ketu here, his Ketu is in the nakshatra, which is called Purva Falguni. Now, Purva Falguni has a lot to do with artists, creative people of all kinds, all sorts of things like that. But what I find interesting is that the Falgunis, they're known as the nakshatras of marriage. They've got a lot to do with bliss and relaxation and all of this kind of stuff. But they're also known as a hammock. So Purva means former, Uttara means latter. So Purva Falguni and Uttara Falguni are seen as part of the hammock or the cot, which is where one does what? Where one sleeps and rests. He was known as the sleeping prophet. So here we can see so much of his powers, so much of his abilities, so much of his legacy, so much of his knowledge and wisdom and understanding. A lot of that is coming from Leo, because his ascendant is conjunct the heart of the lion, which means that he is a leader with a legacy. Not all people who have this placement are necessarily nice. It's not about, particularly with the role stars, it's not necessarily about being nice, etc., stuff like that. It's about being impactful. So if we go around to the next placing that is significant, if we look here in his 5th house, so we count round here from 1st house, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We see Edgar's got 2 planets in the 5th house. Now the 5th house deals with giving consultation and advice to others. Really does. Consultation and advice to others. Also deals with children and creativity, the creative mind, things that we do for a love of it, passion, etc. Here you can see he has got Mars and Jupiter, which are friendly planets to each other, in the sign of Sagittarius, showing tremendous passion. Tremendous passion for what? Education, etc. And what did they say? It was occupations is a clairvoyant, photographer, and Sunday school teacher and homeopath. So yeah, 5th house deals with what? Children. fifth house, giving consultation and advice to others. It can also deal with students. If you look here, he has Jupiter in this nakshatra, which is also the planet of what? Children and education and expansion and abundance. Here he's got Mars. So this is quite a bombastic combination, because although it's the fifth house is relative to the fifth sign, Leo, which is where his ascendant is and his Ketu is. But it's also in the sign of Sagittarius, which is the ninth sign, which is equivalent to the ninth house, which deals with philosophy, education, travels, beliefs, religion. But it's Jupiter here in his own sign of Sagittarius, which is boosting it up all the more. This Sagittarius is also in the nakshatra called Mula. And Mula nakshatra, the deity of Mula nakshatra, is called Niriti, who is known as the goddess of destruction. But what is it that she's destroying? She's destroying illusions, Maya, yeah, where we get confused via the world and its apparitions. So Mula nakshatra means very much to tear things up by the roots. And obviously we can see Edgar did a lot of that as well, because he was talking about Atlantis. He was talking about all of these different subject matters, which at the time would have seemed very radical. I mean, if we think he was born in 1877. So, if we think of, in the this was been the 19th century. But I mean, if we think in the 1880s, 1890s, when he would have been coming into more prominence and stuff like that, think of how radical some of this stuff would have been, how unusual it would have seemed. So that was very much the case of, him kind of like pulling up giving certain revelations, certain truths. Then you have here Mars here in the nakshatra, which is called Purva Ashada, which means the early victory. So he was prominent from a young age. A lot of this stuff began when he was very young, and his reputation obviously spread. Jupiter and Mars are friendly to each other. They're both masculine planets along with the sun, and each here would boost the other. Mars is a fiery planet, and here it is in the fire sign of Sagittarius, and again giving consultation and advice to others. I was reading in the notes that he allegedly had given, if I look here in the part that's actually got his chart, it was saying that he gave approximately 30,000 life readings and medical diagnoses in his lifetime. So we can see how that, because remember, Jupiter is optimism, expansion, religiosity, spirituality in its own sign, making it extremely strong. Plus, Mars is boosting it all the more, adding even more fire and heat to it all. So there would have been an almost kind of evangelical side to him. I mean, of course, he was very Christian as well, but he went and took it beyond. Is there any wonder then that he was able to give consultation and advice to so many people? It's extraordinary, this combination. They were saying even on his deathbed, he was still giving consultations. If we see here in his 6th house of health and healing and overcoming obstacles, he has Ceres, which is where we get the name cereal from. So this is the goddess of harvest, cereal. But I prefer to use her Greek name, which is Demeter. So here we've got Demeter, who had a very famous daughter called Persephone. And so for me, the energies of Ceres not only deal with love and devotion and stuff like that, but it can also deal with losing something and trying to get it back, or having something and worrying about losing it. So there could have been matters here connected with Edgar's health and stuff. I can't remember. I'm sure there's stuff in here about his health. So let's see here. He prayed to be able to help others, especially children. Look at that. And had a spiritual vision in 1890 at the age of 13 that told him he would be able to accomplish his dreams of service. There we are. So isn't it interesting? This ascendant is correct. Yeah, this ascendant is correct because Jupiter is what planet, also planet of children in the 5th house, which deals with children. And of course, Mars is here adding all of that passion. And here, just reading off part of that entry, he wanted to help children as well. He says here, a lady bathed in light told Cayce to sleep with his head on his books, and then he would be able to remember what was in them. This was at a time when he was having trouble in school, and his father was apparently beating him for not being able to spell the words in his lesson correctly. Soon after, he showed signs of special abilities when he found that he could sleep on his school books and have photographic recall of every page. And he seems to have continued using this. Now, this is fascinating because the 5th house is also a house that's in Vedic astrology that is associated with intelligence. It literally deals, it's known as where we can also get our psychic downloads as well. So the 5th house is a very auspicious house. It's one of the lucky houses, the 1st house, 5th house, and the 9th. So we can see just from that account just there, we can see how immensely intelligent he was, but on that esoteric spiritual level, because he didn't even have to read the books. He would sleep on the books, and which is extraordinary, isn't it, when you think about it? And going back here, we can see here he's got the goddess of harvest, love and devotion in the 6th house of health and healing. So he was what? Devoted to healing people. It's remarkable, isn't it? If we look here at his 7th house here, now the 7th house is anyone that's not us. So the way it's very associated with relationships, but it's more than that for me. Yes, it can deal with marriage, partner and spouse, but it also deals with business partners. The 7th house also deals with reputation and the public. And it also deals with name and fame and stuff like this. So here, and I often refer to when there are planets in the 7th house that can, or transiting the 7th house, that can literally deal with clients as well. This is what I found it can mean. Now, if we look here, he's got fascinating combination of planets here. And when I explain the nakshatras, you're going to be like, oh my goodness. So he's got Rahu in the 7th house, who I call Gobble Gobble. So it means he's had to deal with some very extreme characters in his life and very unusual encounters with people, very unusual characters. That's what Rahu in the 7th will bring continuously. Even though Ketu in the 1st house makes the person shy and modest, they will find that they've just got a lot of characters in their life. Anyway, here we've also got Mercury. Now, Mercury does exceedingly well in the sign of Aquarius. Some even go as far to say maybe the true exaltation point of Mercury is not in his own sign of Virgo, but actually in Aquarius. And I think there's strong arguments for that. And Aquarius is all about what? The sciences, yeah, conventional science, but also what I would call the esoteric sciences as well. Reiki, astrology, all of the different ologies are also covered by Aquarius. Here he's got Saturn, which is the planet of service, in his own sign. And here it's also with Venus. So here, this is quite an interesting combination. So Saturn can also represent elements of the father as well, along with Jupiter and the sun. So here, what it can do is when Saturn is in his own signs, it can give one quite strict or very traditional parents. So as I've just read for you as well, because Cayce wasn't getting his spelling right, he was getting some beats from his pop, yeah? So we can see that here because Rahu does add extremes to planets. But here, what is interesting here is that let's remember that Mercury, Saturn, and Venus are all planets of business. I want you to remember that, all planets of business. Rahu and Venus are also friends, and Venus sees Rahu more as a friend. Rahu sees Venus as a friend, but more with like his fingers crossed behind his back. But either way, all of these planets are friends. However, Saturn is a planet that stars whatever planet he's with, even his friends. However, when it comes to Venus, I always say he always gives her a little bit of chocolate because he always has a soft spot. Either way, though, even though Saturn is technically starving these planets, they're all being boosted by Rahu. And they're all doing well in the sign of Aquarius. Aquarius, along with Gemini, is are very intelligent signs. Very, very, I mean, all the signs are intelligent, but literally Gemini and Aquarius are exceptionally intelligent. So anyone who's got lots of planets in Aquarius in either their D1 or their D9 will have above average intelligence. Why? It's because of the processing ability. If we think of chips, the microchip in a computer, if you think the fan is always going, isn't it? Why? To keep it cool, so that chip can process information and data at its optimal range. So when you think, what happens to chips when they overheat? Yeah, they can blow a fuse. So when Mercury is in a fire sign, it doesn't necessarily block the intelligence, but they might be too bombastic, it might be over the top. Similarly, what happens when a chip gets wet? Yeah, that also short circuits it. So whenever you see Mercury in water signs, he can short circuit, particularly when he's in the sign of Pisces, yeah, which is considered his sign of debilitation. And Pisces is very dreamy, and Mercury likes things to be accurate. So there's that. However, when he's in earth signs, he does very well because it's a very cool and stable element. So it adds tremendous logic. But when Mercury is in air signs, and Aquarius in particular, the processing power of that chip increases multiple fold. And then when you consider Mercury is also with Saturn, who's in his own sign, so his Saturn is extremely strong. So his sense of service was extremely strong, because Saturn is the planet of the underdog, of service. It also deals with government as well, rules, regulations. The more shadow side of Saturn comes out in Capricorn, which is the dogma. You do as I do, do as you're told, not as I do. Rules, regulations, pressure, ruthless ambition, and all of this kind of stuff, which can be some of the shadow aspects of Capricorn. Although there is a spiritual element within Capricorn as well. The sign of Aquarius, Saturn is known as a cold, dry planet. And guess what? Aquarius is the coldest and the driest of signs. So when Mercury is here, the microchip can do extremely well, can process a lot without the fuse blowing. However, it's the shadow of it is a cool detachment. However, again, using however again, Aquarius is also a sign of what? Humanity. Community. So we can see here Edgar Cayce's tremendous commitment to service, community, helping the underdog, helping people. Venus, as well as the concept, is a nurturing concept as well, very similar to the moon, but the Venus I refer to as miscongeniality. Venus is also associated with rejuvenation and resuscitation. So when we put all of that together, we see Rahu, which gives unusual skills and talents for someone who has an extraordinary processing power and abilities, strong sense of service, and wanting to rejuvenate and resuscitate others. Also with Venus, many people don't know this, she doesn't just represent luxuries and all that kind of stuff, which she does. However, when she's in her own signs of either Taurus, Libra, exalted in Pisces, or in friendly signs, remember Saturn is a friend to Venus, here she is in Aquarius, Mercury is also a friend, but she's here in Aquarius. It said Venus can give the gift of prophecy. So we see, voila, yeah, it's all there. This will also speak about Edgar Cayce's wife as well, who is probably a very down-to-earth and practical woman, yeah. Because here Venus is with Saturn, which gives that practicality, but also as well should be interested in what? The esoteric arts and the sciences as well. Venus is the wife in a man's chart. And here it is in the sign of Aquarius. And it was also helped by his secretary as well. So we can see here, women were very helpful to Edgar and his life. If we look where the sun is. Now, remember, the sun is the kingdom that we're building this lifetime, whether we're aware of it or not. The sun also shows how we show up, pardon me, in life. And it's also part of our divine spark from the creator. Yeah. So wherever the sun is, it shows where we potentially have to be an individual, where we have to shine in a unique way. Now, let's not forget, because he's also a Leo rising, it means the sun is the ruler of the chart as well. And wherever the ruler of the chart goes will show where the emphasis of the life is. So let's just count round to the sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Voila. Edgar Cayce's kingdom was in the 8th house, which, you know, I refer to as the house of what? Sex, death, and rock and roll. But it's not just that. It deals with what? Kundalini energy, psychology, astrology, all of the different, palmistry, all the different ologies, transformation and transcendence. It deals with otherworldliness, the occult, and the hidden realms. Doesn't that perfectly describe what Edgar Cayce's kingdom is all about? This ascendant is definitely right. Even if it's not exactly 320, this is the correct ascendant because it's a perfect fit. Look at the sign. The sign is Pisces. Pisces deals with what? Otherworldliness, spirituality. It is where everything dissolves. Pisces is the 12th sign of the zodiac, thus relative to the 12th house. And the 12th house I refer to as the land of far, far away. It also deals with outer space. It's oceanic. It deals with the primordial spiritual waters where we all dissolve into one. And of course, he was known as what? The sleeping prophet. So here we can see his kingdom. The sun is quite literally in the 8th house, but it's not only that it's the 8th house, it's also in sidereal Pisces. And it's in the nakshatra, which is called Uttara Bhadrapada. Now, going back a bit to his 7th house, also showing the clients, if you see here, Mercury is in the, and Rahu are in the nakshatra called Shatabhishak. Shatabhishak in Vedic astrology is known as the sign of 100 healers. So it deals with people that help others heal things that are difficult to heal. Makes absolute sense. He carried out almost approximately 30,000 consultations dealing with what? Health, healing, spirituality, psychology, Atlantis, other realms, and all of that kind of stuff. So you can see him as a healer here as well. What I also suspect is because the sun is in the 8th house and the sun represents the body of the father, and Jupiter represents secondary characteristics of the father. Jupiter is here with what? Bombastic and what? Violent Mars. So as I just read for you guys, his father did beat him. Yeah, so his father would have been aggressive. And they also here, maybe the father may have had some issues with alcohol or opium or, you know, something like that. I don't know anything about Edgar Cayce's father biography, but looking at the chart, this would be very indicative because we already know that the violence was real. And very often when the sun is in the 8th house, it can mean that the father has another side to them. They can be associated with scandal, or they might have addiction or stuff like that. So, you know, if they were farmers, his dad probably liked to drink and, all of this kind of stuff. Or he may have had snuff or opium or some other kind of thing. Because what I found is anyone who's got planets in Shatabhishak, they don't normally suffer from addiction. Sometimes they do, but more often than not, it shows up in their family, relationships, and friends. So here, this is saying quite strongly to me, and maybe even the mother might have liked to drink as well, because look, the moon is here and the moon is the mother, and it's with Neptune, which is alcohol and all those things. So, but this also as well gave Edgar his tremendous gifts that he had. And we just see it all together because this Venus is strong, given the gift of prophecy. There's that tremendous desire for service as well, combined with incredible intelligence. That sun in the 8th house in Pisces, incredible intuition where the boundaries get dissolved. Then when we look at his 9th house, the luckiest house, which also deals with what? Education, teaching, preaching, travels to foreign lands. I don't know how much he traveled, but he certainly would have traveled in those astral realms. If we look here, it's Neptune, which dissolves the boundary between the three-dimensional world and the realms beyond. And I've just remembered I was supposed to talk about Uttara Bhadrapada, Purva Bhadrapada. These padas, these nakshatras, which come towards the end of the zodiac, they're known as the funeral cot. Purva means former, like I said before, and Uttara means latter. So he's got Venus in Purva Bhadrapada and the Sun in Uttara Bhadrapada in both parts. So in his rising sign, he's sleeping in the, or his K2, he's sleeping in the hammock, Purva Falguni. But over here, his Venus, given the gift of prophecy, and the Sun, the kingdom, in his 8th house, it means he can speak what with the other realms. What I've found is my clients that have planets in these nakshatras have no fear of death. They understand that it's a transition. All of them, literally, all of them. When I've read their charts, we've always had very poetic and interesting conversations about death. Many of them do hospice work. They are often the person that's there when that person leaves their body, and they often see the soul of the person leave the body as well. So it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that Edgar should have these placements strong, particularly here with his Venus given the gift of prophecy, and of course the Sun, you know, being the kingdom. So just wanted to say that. When we look here, he's got a very psychic combination of Moon and Neptune. And it's also here with Chiron, which is what? The wounded healer. So here we can see, in a way, how he had struggles with his education early on, because remember, the 9th house is also education. Chiron shows where we've received a wound in life, either mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual, or a combination of all those things. This is also the 9th house. The 9th house, it also represents the father. So we can see again how it's repeated. His wounds in life, Edgar's father would have been very impactful upon him. I don't know necessarily what their relationship was like. Maybe it would have improved with time, but there would have been that antagonism. And again, that would also imply, maybe I think he liked to drink. It looks like the father may have liked to drink. Also, potentially the mother as well, because the moon represents the mind overall, the emotions, how we instinctively adapt to things. But the moon is also, as you know, the mother. So here it looks like as well, he may potentially have inherited these psychic gifts from his mother's line. That could well have been the case. His mother would have very much understood him. Even if the father beat him a bit, the mother would have understood her son. There may have even been a psychic and deeply intuitive connection between the two with this combination here. Here you can see the mother may have had a challenging life, but she may have also been a bit challenging as well on Edgar, because here the moon is in Bharani Nakshatra. Bharani is the symbol of Bharani is the yoni. So remember with those eclipses a while back I was talking about, when the sun got eclipsed in Bharani Nakshatra. Sun deals with authority figures, leadership and stuff like that at that time, which I think was around about the 30th of April 2022, when we had those eclipses, and a few days later we had the justices overturn Roe versus Wade. So Bharani Nakshatra also means no pain, no gain. So it means to feel contained and then have a breakthrough. Contained, have a breakthrough. So in his life, he would have felt tremendous pressures to serve the public. And I mean, of course, if you think if he did 30,000, you know, or thereabouts in that ballpark of consultations, he would have been under near constant pressure. But it would have also been breakthroughs, revelations. There's an element, the deity of this nakshatra is called Yama, the god of death. And there is a punishing element here as well. So it can also mean Edgar may have been very self-critical, self-punishing. His mother may have been punishing in some ways, although I think she, you know, really loved him and understood him. But of course, that punishing aspect can also come from the father, because this is also in the 9th house. So we can see that impact again. Here is his Neptune in Ashwini Nakshatra. Now remember, Neptune dissolves the boundaries between the three-dimensional world and beyond. Ashwini is all about speed. The deities or the animals associated with this nakshatra are the horses, and the deities are the Kumar twins, which were also known as the twins, as the physicians to the gods. So here we can see he's got his Neptune in the nakshatra, which is the physicians to the gods, and Neptune dissolves the boundary between the three-dimensional realms beyond. Is there any wonder that he was such a fantastic healer? That's why I'm so passionate about Vedic astrology, as you guys know, because it's real. This is attributable to his life. You know, there it is. There's Neptune in Ashwini Nakshatra. So again, it gives a person what? Tremendous gifts and talents for healing, because it's literally lining up with the Kumar twins. It also means speed. So he obviously, if he was doing that many consultations, he probably would have been doing them quite quickly. But not only that, it means to pioneer as well. It means to be the first in something. So Edgar, in many ways, was one of the pioneers of these techniques and everything that he did. Even though there were people that went before him, you know, obviously it went to that whole next level. And that Chiron element is not only the wounding, but also the healing. If we look to see where his Pluto is really on the cusp here between Aries and Taurus, taking on the energies of both, really. The 10th house also deals with our highest duties in the world, our highest dharma and purpose, ideally, but also deals with name and fame. Pluto is here in the 10th house, meaning the person can become extremely famous. But for what? What does Pluto represent? Pluto represents the 8th house. He's what? Hades, god of the underworld. So we see it being repeated, the energy of the kingdom, by virtue of being in the 8th house, in the sign of Pisces, spirituality. Pluto, which it also represents the 8th house of his own, is in the 10th of highest potential and career, but bringing that 8th house energy there as well. Pluto I also associate with shamanism as well. Pluto is the god of the underworld. It can obviously go down and come back. So can Persephone, so can Hermes. And we see this Persephone energy via the energies of Ceres / Demeter is also in his 6th house of healing. So do you see, he is a man that could transcend the realms, going from the highest levels to the lowest levels and all round, giving his career really this shamanistic quality. Taurus I also refer to as well as the Gaia portion, so it also shows he has a tremendous connection to the land. Pluto is also associated with the soil and the land as well, obviously, because he's god of the underworld. You have to go through the ground to get there. So there's this deep instinctual understanding about Gaia, about the earth. He had many visions, of course, about the earth, and no wonder he could also talk about Atlantis and Lemuria, and all. You know, I'm not sure if you talk about Lemuria. I know Madame Blavatsky did, but he would have been aware, of course, of her and her works and stuff like that. So we can see how it all fits together. And then finally here, when we look at his 12th house, which I refer to as the land of far, far away, like I said, deals with outer space, extraterrestrials, it deals with dreams, deals with otherworldliness and the collective unconscious, because it's relative, of course, to the 12th sign Pisces. So we know he's already got strong activation. If we look here, he's got Uranus retrograde. It looks like it's his only retrograde planet. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's the only one that's retrograde. And whenever a planet's retrograde, it means there's a bit more karma on it. We have to squeeze the orange harder to get a bit of the juice out. But this for him wouldn't really have felt like a squeeze at all, because it was giving him incredible insights. Uranus deals with sudden shocks and surprises, but deals with revelations and insights of all kinds. Freedom, the unexpected, the unusual, can also do with genius as well. So obviously we can see he was immensely intelligent. Yeah, he's obviously kind of like a genius as well, because he's just so exceptionally gifted at what he does, or what he did. So here you have Uranus here, which deals with otherworldliness and outer space. This is why Isn't it? Surprise, surprise. As we were reading, it said an angel came down, a woman bathed in light, told him to put his head on the books. And by a dreaming 12th house, he was able to get what? All of that knowledge and information, which is also what Uranus represents. Uranus represents advanced technologies, cutting edge, unusual intelligence. This is why it's associated with genius. It's also the higher octave of Mercury. So again, immensely intelligent planet. And we see here Mercury is in the sign of Aquarius, which is what the sign that Uranus co-rules. But to add even more to this, if we see the nakshatra where it says ASL, that means Aslesha. So if we see here where it says Uranus, 29 degrees 6 minutes of Cancer. So on the Gandanta point, I've just noticed, on the Gandanta point, which means karmic knot. And it's in the nakshatra called Aslesha. So this borderline, any planet or ascendant or whatever that is within which is 2 degrees either side of the Gandanta point. So it means 28 degrees to 2 degrees on either side. If we look here, his ascendant is also technically Gandanta as well. So his Uranus really, actually, when I just look at it, really, he's got Uranus on the ascendant. They're different signs, but you can see Uranus is at 29 degrees 6 minutes and his ascendant is only at 2 degrees 20 minutes of Leo. So really, his Uranus is very close to the ascendant, making him what? Uranian, giving him what? Flashes of insight, inspiration, genius, things that are unexpected, radical, and strange. Yeah. I also associate as well that Uranus sometimes with learning difficulties and stuff like that. He deals with it on the spectrum, Asperger's, bipolar, those kind of things, and of course flashes of genius and stuff like that. So we can see here because when you look where it looks like it's in the middle of the house, isn't it? But when I check the degree, I'm like, it's practically on the ascendant with Ketu there as well. So that really shows how he's got this connection here between his first house and his 12th house. The first house being us, how we show up in the world, and the 12th house, the realm of dreams, in there with Uranus, which is also on the Gandanta point, showing that there may have been times where he would have been inundated, overwhelmed almost with psychic information and insights. No wonder he ended up doing around about 30,000, because it would have just kept coming and coming and coming and coming, especially here as well with that Jupiter-Mars combination in the 5th house in Sagittarius. So we can see this would have been quite extreme for Edgar, because his chart is so aligned with spirituality, transcendence, spiritual insights. Aslesha as well is also the last nakshatra of Cancer, and it's known as the embracer, the entwiner. And this is where we can have attachments to things or people or stuff like that. It's really the part of Cancer that really wants to hold on and doesn't want to let go. But guess what? Now, the shadow of Aslesha can deal with poison, poison and stuff like that. But obviously, he wasn't a poisonous person or what have you. But it can show as well that the mother may have been skittish or unpredictable in some kind of way, because the sign of Cancer does also deal with the mother, and you've got Uranus here. However, Aslesha nakshatra is a very mystical nakshatra. The deities of Aslesha are said to be the Nagas that live in an underworld said to be illuminated by beautiful gemstones. So they're a race of dragon people and serpents. And serpents are what? Knowledge. Yes, we know about Garden of Eden and all this kind of stuff. And of course, Cayce would have been well aware of the temptation and all that stuff. But ironically, his Uranus is actually in that nakshatra on the Gandanta point. So Aslesha is associated with magic and mysticism. It also deals with that deep, deep knowledge and Kundalini energy as well. Uranus as a planet also deals with Kundalini energy, and we get it most when we have our Uranus opposition. It takes Uranus about 84 years to go around the zodiac, around the sun. So around about age 42, sometimes earlier, sometimes after, we get what is our first Uranus opposition, also known as the midlife crisis. This is where a lot of things can happen. Things, I mean, I'm literally going through this now. I'm not feeling like it's so much a midlife crisis, but I had a lot of issues with technical stuff. Do you remember the times when all my videos were just going like, oh, haywire? And it was just really difficult because I was right in that Uranus, opposition. Thankfully, that's going to move off. I think there's going to be one more swipe of whatever, but was superb for what? Spirituality, astrology, all the different ologies. So with him having such an esoteric planet in such an esoteric nakshatra, is it any wonder that Edgar Cayce became who he did? Yeah. So we can see here the spirituality, the pioneering, the insights, all of that, all of his gifts and talents. He basically was a genius, yeah, pretty much. I think that's fair to say with Edgar Cayce, because he was that exceptional. Anyone that could work that hard anyway is just obviously an extraordinary person. If we look here in his D9 chart, his second half of life, we see his Saturn was debilitated in Aries. But that's not the end of the world. That can also mean a person can become very pioneering. When they master that energy, they can break new ground and actually also become remembered by history. Look here, his Venus is very strong again in her own sign of Taurus, which gives what? The gift of prophecy. When she's in her own signs, Pisces or friendly signs. So there we can see the Venus exceptionally strong. Also shows how women were a big part of his life and a big support in his life. Chiron is there. And what I find is in the D9, wherever Chiron is where we've healed or healing that thing. Here he's got in the second house, which deals with family. Yeah. Riches and assets of all kinds, but also education, food, nutrition, the voice, all of that kind of stuff. So you can really see here, he did really well with that. He's got Jupiter in Gemini. I've got Jupiter in Gemini as well. Lucky me. And here, but what this really means is it can give a person a gift for speech. Yeah, because if you look here, it's in the third house of speech. Jupiter loves to talk. It's in the sign of Gemini, communication sign. It means he really was a good talker as well, an excellent communicator. And he was also what? A teacher. Jupiter is guru, Sanskrit name for Jupiter is guru. And we all know I like to talk. One area in life I don't struggle with. But nor did Edgar, it looks like, yeah. And of course, he was what? The sleeping prophet, yeah. He could literally talk in his sleep, quite literally. Here we see he's got Neptune in the fourth house in the very psychic sign of Cancer, in the very psychic house, so again, Neptune there, incredible. Look at that, Sun in its own sign, yeah, hugely impactful, means a person will leave a big legacy behind them because they're a leader, yeah. So of course he was a leader in the fifth house. Children again, giving consultation and advice to others. Look here, we got Mars with K2, bit of a bombastic combination, but in Virgo, health and healing, overcoming obstacles, helping people. Moon in the seventh house. Seventh house is anyone that's not us. Moon also deals with public, also deals with fame. He became famous. And then when we look here, Pluto in the 10th house, again in the sign of Capricorn this time, but he's got Pluto in the 10th house twice. Became famous as a mystic, someone who deals with the occult, the invisible realms. And then if we look here, he has got Mercury in Pisces in the 12th house. Technically, you can call it a debilitation, but really in the D9, it doesn't quite work in that way. When Mercury's in Pisces, it can also mean thinking out of the box, spiritual thinking. So there it is there with Uranus, the esoteric planet, Ceres, the devotion, and Rahu, the manifest point of destiny this lifetime. So you can see here he was destined by his D1 to have a relationship with the public, Rahu in the 7th house. But here we can see ultimately, particularly in his second half of life, it was all about spirituality, moksha, escaping this world and giving people revelations and insights that they had never heard of or seen before. So he truly lived his life path And when we look at his chart from the D1 and the D9, we can see he totally fulfilled his soul contract. So I hope you guys found that interesting. That's Edgar Cayce there. Let's minimize that down and let's stop the share. Let's stop that. So I hope you guys found that interesting. What a fascinating person. Yeah, you see it's always in the chart. Oh, look at that. I've gone slightly over. But I hope you guys enjoyed that video, and let me know in the comments who you'd like me to look at next. I think some of you want me to look at the lady who created the tarot decks and stuff like that. But anyone esoteric that you think of, let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you on the next one. All right. Bye-bye for now. Thanks so much. And don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe and all that jazz. All right. Bye-bye for now.